Welcome, welcome, welcome. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. And before anything, I want to acknowledge you because I know how busy you are working in your business, serving your clients, doing the things that keep the operations going and functional, and that you have taken time away to work on your business by joining us. That is where you're going to get an advanced move. One tip that you can immediately implement to raise the bar of the level of services you offer and really putting you squarely on the path to your dream firm. So I want to say thank you to you first. I appreciate you taking the time away from working in your business, joining us to work on your business. And today's topic is how women price with confidence to earn more and work less. So if that is something right up your alley, please let us know in the chat that this is like a heck yeah, what thumbs up, whatever, but let us know in the chat that this is something that is spot on for you. Okay, the upper limit challenge. If you feel like you deal with overwhelm, your motivation went from here when you first started out and it's really gone down a lot of notches, or you're dealing with burnout, then those are symptoms of what I call the upper limit challenge. That is where you can't earn anymore because you're maxed out on time. You have sacrificed personal time, spiritual time, social time in order to really take care of your clients and meet those needs. But I want to say that it is not sustainable. And when you tie your fees to time, then eventually these are the symptoms that you end up with, is that you have the upper limit challenge and you have reached capacity in so many different ways. Do you find that there are things you do for your clients and you just don't ever charge them? They don't even know some of the things that you do because they don't see it on an invoice or you don't tell them about it, but there are things that you are devoting time to and really making a difference and they're unawares. Or possibly that your legacy clients are at their old fees and they're not up to your new rates. And maybe you have clients that as you've worked with them over time, the scope has changed. You're doing more for them, but your fees remain the same. If any of those apply to you, you are absolutely in the right place. Steve, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Lauren, I would love to. So hi, I'm Steve Fogelman. And as I always say, you can see by the last name that Lauren and I are definitely together. In fact, we just celebrated our 35th wedding anniversary on Monday. So kudos to us. Anyway, I am a therapist turned business coach, and I'm going to be your co-host. I'll be working the chat. And if you have any questions, we're going to actually be doing some poll questions. That's a great time. If you have a question for Lauren, please go ahead and send that over to me and I will be sure to get it to Lauren so she can answer that. Lauren, it's back to you.
Thank you. And I just want to add, it's actually not just 35 years, it's 35 happy years.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm glad you put that clarifier in there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Anyway, a little bit about me is I'm a sports psychologist turned business coach. And what I have found is my education gave me everything I needed to do what I do really, really well. But it also prepared me to be an employee working for somebody else instead of a business owner, employer, or entrepreneur. Because of that, there were three things that I needed to figure out: how to be able to communicate my value and really do the marketing part when I'm more of an introvert than an extrovert, and doing any of those social network meetings was a drain for me. So how to be able to figure out how to communicate my value and get out there and attract those right people to me. The second thing I had to figure out was how to enroll clients that are a dream to work with, not just tolerating anybody and everybody who said yes to my fees, but really how to really work with those great clients and do it in a way that didn't feel salesy, because I don't want to sell anybody into working with me. And let's face it, nobody wants to be sold to either. So how to enroll clients without wanting to be salesy. And then the third part was how to price my services when I didn't want to connect my fees to time. And those are three things that I find the majority of the accounting professionals I work closely with need also, is communicating value, enrolling clients without being salesy, and then pricing their services that reflect their value as opposed to their time. And as you can see, from 2018 to 2022, I have been named as one of the top 22 business coaches by HubSpot, and that is my Amazon #1 bestseller, The Success Solution. Okay, 82 to 1. For every dollar that a man earns doing the same exact work as you're doing, women are making 82 cents. And I feel that, yes, over the years, we have shrunk the gap. However, not only do we need to close the gap, I believe that we can exceed it. And I want to really be that champion to encourage you to really be open-minded today for what it is that you need to be able to really have those rates that reflect the value as opposed to the time that you take doing the work. So once again, for every dollar that a man earns doing the same exact work as you are, women are earning 82 cents, and it is time to correct that. What we're going to cover today is time and money, pricing secrets, and 5 steps to price with confidence. I will absolutely give you all I can in the short time that we have together today. If you're interested in knowing more, I will show you how to be able to do that and connect further and talk further as we wrap up today.
Well, Lauren, what are the steps to increase income without working additional hours? Because I know that that question comes up a lot. So how do you do that?
Well, raising your rates is actually one of my favorite topics. I want to show you how to be able to earn more and get your free time back. It's not an either or. So how to be able to earn more, grow your bank account, and be able to reduce your workload, get your free time back. And that's why I came up with the Raise Your Rates formula. And even if you take the essence of these 5 steps, it will start to make a difference for you and put you on a path to your dream firm. So the very first thing is high value clients. I want you to understand that in the beginning, you might accept everyone who says yes to your fees because you need that validation that you are putting something out there that is important and other people want. But as you grow your firm, you want to start getting more selective and working with those clients who really value what it is that you have to offer, respect you, they follow through. Those are your dream clients. And being able to understand that you do not need to accept everyone is really a game changer. So high value clients is number 1. And then number 2, as I was mentioning before, is communicate your value. What are the right words that you need to be putting out there, whether it's on your website, social media, in-person networking events, to be able to grab the attention of that high value client and having that person wanting to have a conversation with you, wanting to know more and move forward with you. So understanding how to communicate the value is something that makes a difference between who you attract to working with you. And then number 3 is packaging your services. This is where you start to separate your fees from time because you're looking at the outcome that you can help someone achieve as opposed to the inputs, the workflow, the tasks that you do. By bundling certain things together, those things achieve a certain outcome, which is something of importance to your clients. And it helps you to start to separate your fees from time. Number 4, which we are doing a deep dive into today, is value pricing. This is where you can earn 2 to 3 times more for something you're doing currently, or even get paid for something you're currently doing for free and you don't know how to charge for because you understand the value of it from your client's point of view. And then number 5 is consultation mastery. If you don't like the sales part, especially where you have to go to the close and you start to pitch your services, this is absolutely for you. It is a game changer. We no longer have to be salesy, even in the initial consultation, that by setting it up and following the consultation mastery, where you have what I call a value conversation, at the end of it, that high value client is asking you, how does this work? How can we move forward together? It is something that makes it so much easier and removes the uncomfortable part of trying to pressure someone into working with you. So those are the 5 steps of the Raise Your Rates formula. High value clients, communicate your value, package your services, value pricing, and the consultation mastery.
Well, that's great, Lauren. So we're going to go ahead and get started with time and money. But before we do that, we have our first poll question. So rate your pricing confidence. We're going to look at your pricing confidence. I am highly satisfied with my rates. I'm afraid to raise my rates. I get paid a little and I work a lot. Once again, rate your pricing confidence. Highly satisfied with my rates. Afraid to raise my rates. I get paid a little and I work a lot. So go ahead and this would be a great time. If you have any questions, let me know what those are, and I will get those over to Lauren so she can answer those questions for you. And we will keep up the poll.
And once again, as Steve said, please let us know if you have any questions. We absolutely want to answer them for you. So Steve, let's go ahead and close this down at 3, 2, 1.
Great. So highly satisfied with my rates is 23%. I'm afraid to raise my rates is 54%. And I get paid a little and I work a lot is 23%. Okay, thank you. Well, there's so much to consider, when pricing your services. What's some of the biggest hurdles that come up for our clients?
Well, I think that one of the things that happens, that's the biggest hurdle, no matter what size your firm is the pricing part of it. How do you figure out what it is that you want to charge for your services? And a lot of times what happens is you start out by charging an hourly fee because it is the easiest way to go. Maybe eventually you are looking at a fixed fee. And then there are a certain number of firms who eventually shift over to value pricing their services. So those are some of the things to think about, is that, yes, pricing your services is one of the most challenging things, no matter what size firm you have, whether you are solo or one of the big 4. And that is something that we all have to deal with. But I want to just say that you have to start somewhere, and no matter where you start, it's okay. It's just that if it's not working for you, you don't have to stick with it. There might be a better way possible.
Right. So from Deb, we have, are we able to obtain a copy of the slides and a recording of today's presentations and how we do something?
Okay, so that's something else, Steve. So we're moving on to employee to firm owner. And what I want to say with that is, a lot of times what happens is that we first start out with charging an hourly rate. That's true for most of us. And the reason that we start out in our firms connecting our fees to time is because when we were originally working for somebody else, our wages were always connected to time in some way. Whether you got an hourly rate or whether you got a salary, somehow there was a connection to time. And when you're starting to move into your own firm, there's a lot that you have to do to get started and really gain momentum. So you stick with what you know. You might not even realize that there are other ways to price your services aside from an hourly rate. But I just want to say, yes, it is the easy way to go. The benefits to it is that it feels like a formula that you can use where you just have an hourly rate, you know how many hours you work for someone, and you send them an invoice for that amount. But the bottom line, the cons to it is that when you charge for an hourly rate, first of all, you're getting paid after the fact because you're invoicing. So that means that you might be ending up chasing money or having to justify a fee. The other thing is that you are leaving money on the table. So if you are doing that, yes, it's easy, it's formulaic, so it feels like it's less risky. But on the other hand, there is a lot of risk because of the fact that you're getting paid after you perform the services, and also that the amount of time that you spend maybe invoicing, sending out your invoices, tracking your time, following up with people paying you or them not paying you in a timely manner is not the most efficient way to go.
Well, first, let's define price strategy, and then let's share how an accounting firm decides what price strategy is really the best.
Well, price strategy essentially is figuring out how you want to get paid for your services. That is really the essence of it. It's very, very simple and basic. And the thing to realize is that it's an evolution. Now, with some people, they stay with an hourly rate and they stay with that their entire career as far as being a firm owner. And that is the most popular way. I simply want to say, though, is what is popular and what everybody is doing is not always a best practice. So that is something to think about, because just like with technology changing the way that accounting, bookkeeping, and taxes are done, there are changes in how you can look at your pricing structure. After an hourly rate, some people will move up to the next tier, which would be a fixed fee. A fixed fee is usually calculated by your hourly rate, how much time you spend on average working for someone. Maybe you're throwing in a little bit of profit margin. So that is the next evolution, is charging a fixed fee to a client. And then the top tier would be actually value pricing. And value pricing is a paradigm shift. It's looking at pricing your services differently than hourly or fixed fee. Because with hourly and fixed fee, you're looking at it from what is of value to you. With value pricing, you're actually stepping into your client's shoes and considering what is the value from their point of view. And it's a very, very different perspective, because they don't care about your time. They don't care about your costs. And they definitely don't care what your profit margin is. From their point of view, the lower, the better. So looking at it from value pricing, that's when you can start to earn 2 to 3 times more for your services without any additional time spent working.
Well, what are some things to consider when setting your fees?
This is really the 3 things I want you to think about. And think about this even with your current fees, and see which ones you are having a check mark to. First of all, are your services profitable? Because if you are working with everybody and you have some clients that started out with you in the very beginning and you really haven't brought them up to your current fees, then what you're going to find is sometimes your highest paying client is actually the least profitable client. You might actually, if you sat down and put everybody on an Excel spreadsheet and how much time you're working with them and what they're paying you each month, you might find that you have some clients that are actually in the red and you're losing money on them. In fact, I was just talking with one of my clients about that this week, where he has someone working for him doing some client services. And when he actually started to look at what that client is paying and how many hours this person is working on that client's accounts, he realized that he was actually losing money on that client's account. So that is something to think about, is just because they're paying you a certain amount each month doesn't mean that they're highly profitable. And not just a slim margin. I want you to actually make a really good margin, because what you do matters. Okay, number 2 is the clients. I want you to work with clients who value your services. So once again, I just want to put in the chat, do you have clients that give you headaches or frustrate you? And just let me know. I'm interested in hearing, do you have some clients that are giving you headaches? They frustrate you. Deanna said yes. Nicole said yes. Maria Isabel said yes. So she said, actually, of course, Antoinette said a yes. So think about that. Lindsay, yes. Susan, absolutely. That was like with an exclamation point. So Christian said yes, but I'm learning not to tolerate it. Marsha is saying yes. So I'm just saying that we are in good company. You are not the only one. However, it doesn't have to remain that way, where you are working with someone who you are tolerating. They're not really a good fit for you. And maybe they were a great fit for when you first started out, but as your firm has evolved, they are no longer a great fit for where you are going. So think about, are you working with clients who value you, respect you? They are not texting you Sunday at 8 p.m., expecting you to drop everything and give them a response right then and there. And then if you don't respond, they go ahead and call your life partner. How come I didn't get a response back? Have her call me. So, and this is a true scenario. I cannot make this up. So think about it. Do you have clients like that? And if so, then maybe you would have a conversation with yourself as to how much you're tolerating them. Because if you're tolerating them, they are low profit and they are high frustration. So it means that they are paying you a little and you are working overtime for them. And then the third one is win-win. That is where everybody is happy with the pricing. You are making a great profit on the work that you're doing for them. You are happy with the fees you're collecting, and they are happy to pay you those fees because they recognize the value of what you're doing for them and how it's making a difference for them in their business. So Antoinette said, I fired a client like that last year. Kudos to you, because firing clients is something I help all my clients do, but it is something that you tolerate for too long or you think about for too long. So just want to say kudos to you. And this is what I just want to share about Lillian. Now, when we first met, she was charging a very low fee for her services. And let's just talk about cleanup projects. The max that she ever charged was $1,500 for a cleanup project. That was like her top cleanup project. And I don't think she charged over $1,500 for a cleanup project, no matter how many years she was cleaning up, because that was something that was too much of a stretch for her. She thought that $1,500 was a lot of money. And as we were working together, she was really able to connect with her value and the difference that she made for her clients. One of the things that she realized was that the difference that she made was giving them peace of mind as well as insights in order to help them with their businesses and help them grow in a way that made a difference and increase their profit margin, reduce some of their own frustrations and costly mistakes. Because that she was able to now start pricing her cleanups at $10,000. Trust me, she charges a minimum of $10,000 for a cleanup project now. And that is because she sees the value of what she brings to the table. And it is not about the tasks required to be able to get their financials up to speed. It is because she realized what's possible for them in their business when they have accurate, up-to-date financials, and they're able to come to her before they're making business decisions. So think about that for you. If you were able to switch how you looked at your work with your clients, even with the cleanups, would you be able to then charge more than what you're currently charging? And one of the things that also happened with Lillian is, as she was doing cleanup projects for them, she was able to then come up with packages, which we designed together. This is right from her website. It's proprietary for her, so I'm sharing this for inspiration, but please just use it for inspiration as opposed to copying it. But mainly what we did is we came up with 3 packages for her: the basic, the pro, and the premium. And basically it shows exactly what some of the services that she offers her clients depending on which package that she goes into. So think about it. Because of the fact that her clients are now paying her a minimum of $10,000 for a cleanup, means that she is no longer working with a $350 a month client. Her clients have a higher minimum threshold because these clients that she's enrolling into working with her are not price sensitive. They recognize the value of her input regarding their financials.
Well, we're going to move forward, Lauren. We're going to move into the pricing secrets, which is one of my favorite topics. But before we do that, we have our next poll question. So how do you charge your clients? Do you charge hourly rate like we've been talking about? Do you charge flat fee, value pricing, or a combination? So once again, how do you charge your clients? Is it hourly rate, flat fee, value pricing, or combination?
And Radhika, asked, is it 10,000 minimum, assuming it's for 12 months of cleanup? Actually, no. Even if they need less than 12 months of cleanup, that's still her minimum, because it is the value of having accurate financials in order to make better business decisions and access to her as an advisor. It is not about how many months she is cleaning up their books. So yes, if it would be, it's 12 months or less, it would be a $10,000 minimum. So thanks for asking that, Radhika. What were you going to say, Steve?
Nothing.
Okay, and I just want to ask, because I want to make sure that this is something that serves you well. I know that there's questions. This might be new to you, or maybe you have some other questions. Anybody want to ask any questions or anything that they want to add to the conversation? I would love to hear from you and really have a conversation that serves you to the highest good.
Lauren, I actually do have a question.
Oh.
What's the difference between fixed and value pricing?
Basically, with fixed, so both of them have a set fee. That is the only similarity. With fixed fees, you are pricing the work according to what is of value to you, where you are focusing on your time, your costs, and maybe you're building in some profit margin. With value pricing, that is where you're looking at the value from the client's perspective of having accurate and up-to-date books and how that makes a difference for them. And the difference could be peace of mind. It could have something to do with time, advancing their business, or maybe with cash flow and profit margin. So those are some of the things to think about as far as the difference between a fixed fee and value pricing. Anyway, I just wanted to check in. Did anybody have a question that they wanted to ask?
That was my question. So.
Oh, okay, great, great, excellent. Thank you, Marsha. So how are you currently charging your clients?
Hourly rate.
Okay, and is fixed fee or value pricing something that you've thought about?
I thought about I'm leaning towards flat fee. But now, I mean, it's like, okay, what is it worth to the client? That's really important, because I've come across some books that were just a mess.
Well, not just that, but think about, when you're working with a client, once you even get the books up to speed, what are some of the things that you've seen where they've benefited because they now have accurate financials and they have you on their team? So tell me what's been possible for a business because you're doing their financials.
What's possible? Everything's on time. There's no late fees. We had an issue with sales and use tax reconciliations being late, because there's always penalties. They're able to give an accurate shareholder distribution to each of the partners. If they have.
Are we talking about law firms?
No, real estate brokerage.
That's fine. So some of the things to think about that goes beyond just the workflow and the tasks that you're doing is, first of all, they have no more late fees. That means that if they ever wanted to get a business loan, they might have a better credit rating and get a better credit loan because of that. That's one thing. Distributions to partners. We don't want to piss off partners.
No.
Because that when people are working in a business and they're not being compensated well, they get resentful, and then that affects their quality of work and their productivity, or they start looking for something else. It could affect turnover as well. The taxes, oh my gosh, that is like a can of worms right there. So if you're fixing all those things, what is the value to that business compared to the things that you're actually doing to allow them to have those benefits?
I see. I know the value, but I have an issue with trying to translate it to them. Because once they're in a good spot, they're like, okay, this is good. This is nice and copacetic. Everything's being paid on time. No late fees. We're getting our distributions on time. Totally opposite from before. It's how do I present that to them? Yes.
So I'm going to go into that in section 3 today about how to start to present it. And it'll give you some insights that you can think about. But really what you want to recognize is that they already see the value of working with you and they trust you. And let's just go there. Financials are touchy. Money is a touchy subject for people. People have stuff around money. they're not as likely to leave probably as you think that they are.
Well, Lauren, let's go ahead and close down the poll.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve.
Sure. So how do you charge your clients? Hourly rate is 20%, flat fee is 20%, value pricing is 20%, and a combination is 40%. Thank you for that.
Excellent.
Those are
So
great.
we're going to move forward, but Marsha, I really appreciate you bringing that question up because it is on a lot of people's minds.
Yeah. So as we've talked about price strategies, so the $1 million question is, how do you charge and what do you charge?
Well, I think the very first thing to think about is that this is a mindset thing. And so often, especially with women, is that we tend to undervalue what we bring to the table because we're natural nurturers. We want to help someone. We see what's the potential for them. We've seen their financials and we believe that they can't afford our full rate. So we immediately discount them before they even ask for one. And that in order for you to start to be able to get paid the value of your services and the difference that you make for your clients, you have to first connect with your own value. That is so important. And I also want to say the next thing to consider is that moving in this direction of raising your rates, whether you raise an hourly rate, you go from hourly to a fixed fee, or you take the leap of faith and maybe some hand holding and go to value pricing, it takes courage, not confidence. The confidence comes later. But also in section 3, I'll give you some ways on how to be able to move in that direction. So that is something to think about, is that a lot of times we talk ourselves out of raising our rates because we think that our clients can't afford this. They already are paying a certain rate. How can I charge them more without doing more for them? The fact that nobody in my area, what I'm doing is charging higher rates. They won't, people can't afford it where I live. Or possibly that not even my mentors charge that much. Who am I to be able to do that? Or one that came up earlier this week was, I've only been a business owner for about a year now. I can't charge more. But then when I asked her, how long have you been doing accounting? Well, I'm a CPA and I worked as a controller for 20 years for this company. It's like, okay, maybe she's a first year as a business owner, but she is a CPA and she's worked all these years as a controller for this company. She has a lot of experience that she's bringing to the table for her current clients. So I simply want to say those are some of the things that happen when we're thinking about our rates. And this is where I want to be a champion for you. You have to connect with your own value before you can expect anybody else to see the value that you bring to the table.
Well, let's discuss value, which we actually have been discussing. But what are some things that you want to consider when you're looking at the value formula?
Yes. And so one of the things I want to say, and it's in response to Antoinette, who says, why do we underrate our services and uplift our clients in order to please them? It is cultural. So I want to just say it is cultural and it is epidemic for women. And that is why I am talking about this. It is time to break that mindset of thinking and really put your value first and realize that because you offer so much value, you deserve to work with clients who recognize the value that you bring to the table also, and not put yourself on a back burner or even off the list totally. So this is not a zero-sum game of either I can work with great clients or I can make a lot of money. You can work with great clients and make a lot of money without having to sacrifice your life, which is having that upper limit challenge. We can go ahead and break that glass ceiling. Women are breaking the glass ceiling in corporate. The business ownership glass ceiling is the upper limit challenge. We can break that too. And this is the very way to do that, is by looking at professional value. This is, once again, you have to connect with your own value. And by thinking about your own value, think about what has been possible for a particular client because of the fact they have you working on their finances, that you are their accounting department. So think about what is possible for someone else, and that starts to give you insights into your professional value. The next thing is a value conversation. This is what Marsha was talking about. She doesn't have the words to be able to go back to a current client about how to be able to increase the fees for the work that she is doing for them. And so this is something that is actually a script that I give my clients, is the exact words of how to be able to not just enroll new clients at your new rates, which is the easy part, but going back to the current clients and getting them up to your new rates as well. And then the last part is pricing for value, because once again, being able to price it from the client's value and what they see, of no longer having to deal with tax penalties, being able to raise their credit scores because they no longer have late fees being charged to them, and the other, or that they have improved employee retention, they don't have as much turnover. What is the value from the client's point of view? And then starting to look at how you can price your services according to that value. So that is what the three parts of the value formula is the professional value, the value conversation, and pricing for value.
Effective and efficient.
Yep, effective and efficient. So this is something that came from personal experience. A lot of times when you hear those two, you hear efficient first and then effective. I want to flip that and have you do things that are effective and the efficiency comes later. And the way that I got this insight was in the very early stages of business coaching. I worked with a wide variety of businesses, and I was working with a painter, and this painter wanted his different crews to be more efficient, because if he could paint 5 houses in a month instead of 4, that was going to make a big difference to his revenues and his bottom line. So we worked on coming up with a process to improve his crew's efficiency. And there was this one house that his crew was painting on, and he came at the end of the workday to see how things were going. And that's when the homeowner drove up. And the homeowner looked at the house, looked back at him, looked at the house again with like this very strange, confused look on his face. And this painter couldn't hold back. "Don't you like the job?" And the homeowner said, "I love the job, but I never asked to have my house painted." And this painter's looking at the invoice. The crew is supposed to be painting the house next door, not this particular house. So basically they were efficient, but they weren't effective, which means that they were fast at doing the wrong thing. And so often that is what happens when you are charging an hourly rate, is that it feels efficient. And it's an easy way to calculate what you ought to be earning for that particular service, because you're calculating time by your hourly rate, but it is not the most effective way to price your services. It leaves money on the table. And when we start to move away from that, I guarantee you can earn 2 to 3 times more without working any additional hours. And in fact, you can get back some of your personal time as well. The other thing to think about as we're looking at this and really pricing with confidence is, how are you positioning yourself when you're talking to a potential client, or even with your current clients? Do they see you as a bookkeeper, as an accountant, as a tax bro, and they see you as the label for that job? If so, that commoditizes your services. What I want them to do is to see you as that expert that can solve their biggest pain points, that can help them move forward, that can reduce the expensive lessons that come with owning a business, the cash flow problems, improve efficiencies, remove the tax time headaches. So instead of seeing you as a commodity, which is the label and the task that you do for them, we start to now position ourselves as the expert, that you happen to know how to do certain things, and you have the tools to be able to help them achieve a certain outcome that is important to them. And that is the difference that's very subtle, but happens to improve your bank account and your bottom line. Susan, are you here? She might be, she might not be. But if you were, I would love for you to unmute yourself. Oopsie.
There, I'm
Oh,
here.
hi, Susan. How you doing?
Oh.
I'm not
Hi,
good at Zoom quite.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, Steve. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
So do you mind talking about that cleanup project that we were working on and just sharing what your experience was? It's going to be so much better coming from you than from me.
Right. So these were existing clients who I already had confidence that they needed me desperately. They loved me, and they were my biggest fan. So I didn't have an issue with anything. I had a good idea that whatever I needed to do, they would pay for. I knew their financial situation. There were no negatives to this. However, what they needed was they were a veterinary practice and they wanted everything broken down for the prior year into a much more complicated general ledger with more with just more what would you call it, detail, because they were getting ready to sell their business, so they wanted their general ledger to look more specific. So they wanted me to go back for the entire year and recategorize everything, and it was quite a big job. But my initial reaction was just, before I would drop numbers in my mind, I always try to come up in my mind with what I think it's going to be. And I my first thought was $1,500, and that's where I departed from. And then I started dropping in some numbers, and I realized it was going to take a long time. It was going to be a lot of work. I was going to have somebody help me. And then I was very confused. So Lauren and I worked it out just, step by step pretty much. And I ended up asking for $7,900. And they didn't even blink. I said, okay, just do it. I was ready to offer them 3 payments, all sort of, they didn't even blink. And I think my mistake was in underestimating my value, because they weren't underestimating my value. They had known me for 3 years. So, I'm a perfect example. The reason I'm here even is because I need to hear this again. I think women fall back into like you said, the pleasing sort of a thing, but that's what we ended up doing. And once you get into the work, you realize you're like, oh yeah, I'm worth every penny of this, because it's always more than you think, right?
And Susan, I so appreciate that. And with that, so we're talking about cleanup number 1 on that spreadsheet that Susan shared with me.
Right.
And that they paid you up front, right? Because
they did,
of
yes.
following the formula?
Yes.
So
yeah, go ahead.
what I remember is that having that gave you insight that people weren't as price sensitive as you thought that they were.
That's sort of always been the case. I would say 95% of the time, it's not an issue. And when it is an issue, those are clients that I find that if I do take them on, turn out to be my biggest burdens, the pricey ones, right?
Exactly. And the other thing I just want to share, because I know that this was when we first started working, it was like 7 days a week, 70 hours a week. And I remember from our last conversation a couple months ago that you're not working that many hours any longer. Is that still true?
It's still true. I'm working more hours. I had sort of settled into about 15 to 20 hours a week average. And I do have an assistant who helps me out. But I decided recently, I just started getting a lot of inquiries. I think, I'm not sure why, just it was my time. I started getting a lot more inquiries, and it was either turn them down and still work 15 to 20 hours a week, or take them on and sort of regroup and refocus my business. So I decided to work a few more hours, and hopefully that's gonna end up good for me.
Well, I want to say that, and thanks for sharing that, because I know it's so inspiring of someone. There's a lot of people here that are working 50 to 70 hours a week. And what you're now working in 1 week, somebody else might be working in 1 day.
Oh,
So
No, I do what I want now.
Susan, I so appreciate, we didn't plan this ahead of time. I
No.
called you out on the spot. Thank you so much for sharing your story with me.
Thank you.
Okay,
Well,
Steve.
Well, there's one other piece about Susan that I think it's important, that in the year she made $56,500.
And she reduced from the 70 hours to the 15, 20 hours.
Exactly. So that's nothing to sneeze at.
Mhm.
Anyway, we're going to be looking next at 5 steps to price with confidence. But before we do that, we have our next poll question.
Perfect. Give me 1 second and get that all set up.
So how often do you raise your rates? Do you raise them more than once per year? Do you raise them annually, or do you do that less than once per year? So once again, how often do you raise your rates? More than once per year, annually, or less than once per year? And Lauren, I do have a question about raising rates. Who do you start with first? Do you start with a new client, or do you start with your current clients?
I believe that it is really up to you as a firm owner and where you are in capacity and your comfort level. Maybe 75% of the clients that I work closely with and speak with, they will start with their new clients because it's easier. Those clients don't have any history with you. And then the other 25% will actually start with their current clients because they're at capacity. They don't really want any new clients. And we need to get their current clients up to their new rates and into packages. So you can go either way. It depends on you and your comfort level, but the majority of accounting professionals will start with new clients.
Thank you.
And let's go ahead and end the poll.
Sure. So how often do you raise your rates? More than once per year is 0%. Annually is 25%, and less than once per year is 75%. Great.
Perfect.
And Lauren, before we get into the final section where you're going to be discussing how to price with confidence, I've been getting some private messages about how to implement value pricing. And I know that we have a free resource that talks right about that. So why don't you share that with our folks?
Well, actually, if you are looking to increase your rates, especially with your legacy clients, then these are some of the steps that you want to think about as you go through that process. I have it all written out for you step by step. So if you want to know how to be able to raise rates, especially with your current and legacy clients, go to businesssuccesssolution.com/raise, and you can get that free resource.
Great. So Lauren, many of our clients want to earn more, but they're really unsure how to start. How do you lead with value and emphasize your expertise at the same time?
And Steve, I'm going to go ahead and take it from here, okay?
Go for it.
Great. The very first thing you want to start to think about is stepping into your client's shoes instead of looking at your services and your fees from your perspective. You want to understand what is the solution that is possible because of someone having you managing their finances and keeping it up to date. So what is possible because the fact that they have accurate financials, they are on time with their taxes, they don't get those tax surprises any longer. Maybe they've even reduced their tax bill because they have accurate financials. And as a result of that, they've been able to either get rid of a headache and a frustration or something that they've been tolerating, or they can advance forward in a way that was important to them, but they couldn't up until they had the accurate financials. So start to think about what is the solution and what is possible because of someone hiring you and your firm to work for them. The next thing you want to think about as far as pricing goes is looking at the airline industry as an example, that pricing is just as much science as it is art. It is definitely messy. And that is why people will a lot of times stick with a fixed fee or an hourly rate, is because it feels like a formula. And as a result, that gives you some comfort. But you want to look at airlines because we've all had the experience, if we've flown at any point, where airlines actually use what's called surge pricing. They price the customer, not the seat, because they want to make the maximum revenues possible for each and every flight that is flown by their airline. So that means that you could be sitting next to someone and that person paid a different fee for that seat, even though you're in the same section as that other person. And that might have to do with urgency. So the closer you are to a flight taking off will increase the price of a ticket. It has to do with amenities, what type of experience you want to have, so on and so forth. There's many things that go into their very complex algorithm, but they are pricing the customer, not the seat. So that means that they're pricing from the value of a client's perspective, as opposed to just the function of being able to depart and arrive in a certain amount of time. And I will let you know that I've had the experience where I had to be somewhere the very next day, and I was happy to pay a premium fee to be in the very last row against the bulkhead in the middle seat. And that is like the worst seat on the entire plane. And I probably paid the same price as someone that maybe bought their ticket 3 or 4 months earlier and were in business or first class. But because I had the urgency, I was happy to be on that flight, period. And that is something to think about. So how do accounting professionals apply this? An easy example is tax season. The way to apply surge pricing to tax season is if you are getting the books ready, or if you are doing taxes, then maybe you have the fee that you actually want, your main fee in February when you have more capacity and there's not as much urgency. And then maybe you raise your fees, and people that are coming to you and getting their taxes done now in March are paying a higher fees than the early birds in February. And then people that are coming to you in April that want to get their taxes done before the deadline or avoid the penalties, have them pay a premium fee, just like I paid to be on the airline and sit in the last row in the bulkhead between two people. Have them pay a premium fee, and you can just put them on extensions so that you don't have to devote even more hours and burn yourself out at the end of tax season. So that is a way that surge pricing could apply to an accounting firm, is by looking at the urgency of a client coming to you and pricing according to that urgency or that need, as opposed to the amount of time that it would take you to perform the work. The other part is the first steps of value pricing. And if you've been on other trainings with me, you have probably heard this before, but listening to something that you've heard before is good, because you're at a different place now and maybe you'll get something different. And this is what I call good, better, best pricing. What it is how to start to ease your way from an hourly or fixed fee over to value pricing. And you're going to have new clients coming to you. And what you're going to do is come up with what you think that fixed fee will be for their services. Typically looking at how many hours it is by your hourly rate and coming up with that. And now we're going to come up with your new good rate. That is where you're going to take that flat rate that you had and multiply it by 1.5. Enroll 3 people into your new good rate. And this means that you're getting evidence that people aren't as price sensitive as you think they are. After you enroll those 3 people, we go up to tier 2, your better rate. Once again, people are coming to you, come up with that initial flat fee that you were going to charge. And now let's multiply it by 2x. This means that you're now earning double, no additional time spent working. And people are going to be saying yes to you. And as you're doing that, you're getting better insights as to how to have that initial consultation, what questions might come up, how to be able to answer those questions in order for them to see the value of working with you. And you're making double what you were previously making with no additional time spent working. I need to emphasize that. After you roll 3 people in your better rate, we go up to the top tier, which is your best rate. And this is where it takes courage, not confidence. The confidence comes later. But this is where people come into you, once again, price out what you originally would have charged them. Now let's go ahead and multiply it by 3x. And as a result of that, you realize that you're working with a better value client that respects you, takes what you have to say seriously, and integrates what it is that you're suggesting. And because you're working with someone who's paying you triple what you originally would have charged for that service, you don't need as many clients. That means that you can follow Susan. Instead of working 70 hours to bring in that income need, you can now go down to 20 hours in order to be able to meet your revenue goals. And so this is how to start to move towards value pricing. And by following the good, better, best, you are going to be able to earn 2 to 3 times more than what you were initially charging for those services. And I just want to say at some point, we're going to need to recalibrate. So your best will now go to the bottom. That will become your new initial fee, and you can go through the good, better, best all over again to be able to reset your fees. And as you're moving forward in this direction, then what you want to think about is, instead of focusing on a line item invoice where you have to track everything, you have to send them an invoice, you're getting paid after the fact. What I do is I help my clients transition their services over to packages where they create silver, gold, and diamond packages. You saw an example with Lillian earlier today that she had her 3 packages also. And by doing this, you're bundling services together. That means you're separating fees from time. And the reason that this is important is because the more experience you gain doing something, or the more technology you add in for efficiency, means that a client becomes more profitable. You increase your profit margin as you become more efficient doing something. And by separating your fees and time, this is the way you're able to earn more without having to work additional hours. So the silver, gold, and diamond packages are tiered. The silver will be the very basics. The gold will be what most of your clients need and maybe a little bit more thrown in. And the diamond would be similar to having virtual outsourced CFO services. And then the last one is having this conversation. So you want to have what I call a value conversation, where you want to understand what it is that your clients need, what it is that they want to achieve, and what they want to achieve in the future, and showing them how you can help them do that. And by doing that, you can then talk about the different options of working together, which is the 3 packages that we talked about, and enroll them into the one that is a best fit. By having this value conversation, you're coming from an advisory point of view where you're focusing on what's in their best interest and helping them make a decision that is really going to be beneficial to them, instead of looking to sell them into what would be of best value to you. So as an advisor, you want to understand what the needs are and educate them about how you can help them achieve that result because they have accurate financials. And with Rihanna, similar to Susan, she was working a lot of hours. She would put the kids to bed and go back to her computer and do some additional client work late into the evenings to be able to maintain everything and keep all of her clients happy. Because she said yes to everybody who was willing to pay her fees, that meant that she was doing a lot of different things for a lot of different people, and it was burning her out. So what we were able to do is get her onto packages. As you can see, she had the silver, gold, and platinum. She started to focus on her niche, which is restaurants, because that is where her previous professional experience was. And she was able to increase her revenues and also grow her team and cut back her hours in order to spend more time with her family again.
Nice.
So, we're going to skip that one and just go to what we covered today, Steve.
So what we covered today was time and money, pricing secrets, 5 steps to price with confidence. And yeah, that's where we are. I was just reading what you put in the chat.
Yep.
So Lauren, you really shared quite a bit today. And now I think that they can get started. But I think that there are some people who are ready to really raise their rates and they don't want to figure this out on their own. What do you recommend for the listeners who want to increase their income without working the additional hours?
I believe you bring so much to the table. And sometimes you know what you want, but you think about it for a long time before you implement it, or you need some hand-holding to be able to finally make this happen. The accountability has a lot of value. And also the step-by-step system, so you're less likely to make a mistake or upset someone down the road. So if what we talked about today resonated with you, you want to get this dialed in order to increase your revenues and reduce your workload, then let's have a conversation. I am offering a Path to Profit strategy session. It does have a $500 value, but it is complimentary. And we're going to focus on your business, how to be able to set rates that reflect the value of what you offer your clients and reduce your workload. So if that interests you, businesssuccesssolution.com/let's talk. I put that in the chat as well, and we can have that dedicated conversation. The other thing I just want to acknowledge is I know it's top of the hour, so I so thank you for taking time away from working in your business. I know you're busy. You have a lot that is on your plate to take care of your clients, and really joining me today to work on your business, getting that advanced level move to be able to raise the bar of what you offer your clients and increase your revenues and everything like that. So I would just say, even if you took one thing away and you see the value of this and you want to have a conversation, let me know. But so much thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you taking the time and showing up and really partnering with me on this conversation.